NXT Back to the Future podcast. As always, I'm joined by Adam, but less about him. He's not that interesting compared to the person that we are currently with today, which is Joel Redman. So Joel was formerly known in NXT as Joel. Do you want to give yourself a little introduction?
Oliver Gray is my name in NXT.
Yes, yeah. And Joel made history. He was one half of the first ever NXT Tag Team Champions, which is there's only one first. So you were half of this, which is fantastic. So brilliant. Your tag team partner in NXT was Neville. So we'll talk about him in a little bit. But first of all, how are you doing today?
Yeah, very good. Very well. Keeping busy, which is good. But
good. So yeah, can't madness in the pandemic.
That's it. Back to normal now, or normal-ish.
Yes, we'll do our best. So brilliant. So we'll go back to the start of pro wrestling. So how did you get into pro wrestling? When was the first time that you saw it, or when was the first time it really grabbed you?
So we didn't have sort of Sky TV as a kid or anything, so I didn't really watch it as a kid. Some friends of mine dragged me to a live show in Exeter. It's the first time I saw it. So I saw sort of live wrestling probably when I was 12, 13, something like that. And then started doing judo because there was no sort of wrestling schools where I lived. It was the closest thing I could do. And then started wrestling as a sort of pro when I was 15, maybe, something like that. So I started quite young.
Oh, wow. Really interesting. 15 seems very young to become a professional wrestler when you hear about some people taking it up at 11, 12. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's young, but I was sort of wrestling on the holiday camp circuit then, so I was sort of helping sort of referee shows and stuff. That's how I started. So I sort of started on the road rather than in a wrestling school, and then I went to lots of different wrestling schools when I was a teenager. But yeah, I kind of just started straight in the deep end, really, which was good, I guess. It's a good way to learn. Yeah,
well, you can only sink or swim, and clearly you swam incredibly well to do some of the things you've done in your career. Exactly. So what made you decide to be a pro wrestler? Was it that show in Exeter when you were 12 or 13?
Yeah. Just watching James Mason was on the show. Just watching people like James Mason wrestle. That technical style was really what appealed to me, I think. So just watching that live show. And then from there, I'm from a farm in Devon. So my friends were on a farm across the field. I used to go out there and watch sort of WWE and stuff on Sky. So yeah, that was sort of how I started. But I wasn't a wrestling fan as a kid. I couldn't, I started watching wrestling in 2000 maybe.
Oh, right, okay.
But I didn't really watch it before that.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say... Sorry.
Yeah.
I'd say a bit like me. I started actually watching wrestling in 2017. So very late. And it's his fault, so...
My bad.
Yeah, you're bad, but I was hooked ever since as well. So that was pretty much it for me.
I was going to say, if you started watching wrestling in 2000, the obvious question was going to be, were you a WCW or a WWF guy? But based on the quality of WCW in 2000, I assume not a WCW guy.
Yeah, WWF. But I was always drawn to the sort of more technical wrestlers, I guess, so like the Kurt Angles and the Benoits and Guerreros. Those were the guys that really appealed to me. I was never a big fan of Austin or Rock or anything. I just didn't. It wasn't. Because of the judo background and stuff, it wasn't really something that appealed to me.
No, of course.
But yeah, it's late to get into it. I go back now and I watch a lot of Attitude Era stuff and 80s wrestling, and yeah, it's really good. But yeah, I was sort of a late starter, I guess.
No, fair enough. So you weren't like a Hogan sort of guy back in that day.
No, I mean now I like watching his work, but yeah, I never really knew who he was as a kid. But, yeah.
All right. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So was there anywhere when you first obviously started to train, was there anywhere that you really looked forward to wrestling? Or did you have any sort of goals that you'd made?
Yeah, All Star, that was the biggest company in England or in Europe, so even when I was a teenager, I'd go and do the odd show here and there. But that was the best of the best, So to be in All Star was it was British wrestling, and then there was All Star, and it was trying to get into that level really, and that was my goal, I guess, was just try and be one of their wrestlers on a full-time basis, which I have been for the last sort of 7 or 8 years, but it obviously took a long time to get there.
Yeah.
That was the goal. But I think anyone from my era of British wrestling, that would have been their goal, because the gulf was so big. It really was. It was the sort of Premier League, and then everything else was the conference. It wasn't. Yeah. There was a massive gulf in quality. Now, obviously, you've got Progress and Rev Pro, and lots of independents are big now. So it's kind of even playing field. Back then it wasn't. It was just all-star, everything else really.
Yeah.
I think even with like the introduction of NXT UK, that's added a gateway almost into the WWE. If you actually want to go take that step. But again, there's many independent companies now.
Yeah, but you can't really freelance in NXT UK, so I think they're under a contract. So that's kind of like, you know, if you're a freelance wrestler, you've got lots of different companies you can go and work in, and obviously some have got more exposure than others. Whereas I think if you sign to NXT, that's it. You know, you're not going to wrestle anywhere else really. You're just going to wrestle for them, which is good. Obviously, that's the goal for all British wrestlers now, to try and get in there. But it's difficult. There's a lot of competition in England now. There's a lot of good wrestlers. So trying to get into a company like that is very difficult.
Well, I suppose also not only England. The big thing now, I suppose, is Europe, isn't it? They haven't expanded as I suppose they anticipated. And you've got guys like people coming out of WXW mainly, but you've had obviously people come out of Spain and Germany, Russia, which is, you know, I suppose great for the European scene. Have you ever wrestled in somewhere like WXW? I'm pretty sure you probably have.
Yeah, when I was 19, 20 maybe. Like I used to go over there quite often with Haskins. We do a lot of WXW stuff. I wrestled for them. And then I was doing that in Irish whip wrestling at the same time. So one weekend would be Ireland, the next weekend would be Germany. So we'd always be going around Europe at that time. But that was probably when I was 19. It's like 15 years ago. It's a long time ago. So I think their shows have sort of probably improved a lot now, the production quality and stuff. But it was good.
No, for sure. I can imagine Irish whip wrestling had a lot of Sheamus and Drew McIntyre early on, didn't it? I believe.
Yeah, they were all there at the same time. And they used to have a lot of imports too. So you'd have a lot of American imports there as well. And they were good tours. They'd be quite long tours sometimes, like a week of touring. So that was always good. Yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah. Did you have Big Damo around at that time as well?
I don't think so. I'll probably met him only a handful of times, maybe at Red Pro or something. But no, I don't remember him being there. I can't think who else was there, really. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I remember Sheamus and stuff. That's about it, really.
As far as I remember, it seemed like the majority of their shows was headlined by Sheamus and McIntyre around that time. I don't really remember anyone else that wrestled for them regularly. It just seemed to be those two guys headlining every single show.
Yeah. No, they were good tours though, good shows. I remember being good sort of family shows, so it was always good fun.
So where did you initially sort of make your name? Because obviously WWE got in contact with you at some point, but you had probably a good 4 or 5 years in England and the surrounding areas in that time. I know you were in a tag team with Mark Haskins. You and Haskins tag team for a good while. But what sort of things did you do to really, you know, why do you think WWE sort of thought, oh, you know, this is a guy that we really want to sign? Because no one was really getting signed from WWE in Europe at that time. It was literally you, Sheamus, and McIntyre, which is a great company to be in.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I sort of cut my teeth in a company called Premier Promotions on the South Coast, and they're like a real old school British company. So all the matches are rounds. They all do like 6 5-minute rounds.
Oh, okay.
And I think the promoter there just took a shine to me really, and just put me in with like Danny Collins and Robbie Brookside and Johnny Kidd, like all the real legends. And they just schooled me. You know, I couldn't keep up at all. But I think just wrestling them was a really good experience, and it taught me how to wrestle on the mat and stuff quite well. And then my tryout, you know, the first tryout didn't go very well, but the second tryout, they just wanted to see mat wrestling and they wanted to see intensity. And that's the kind of stuff I've been doing anyway, so it was kind of perfect for me. I mean, they're kind of like, it's flavour of the month with WWE. Sometimes I come over and they want to see 7-foot giants. Sometimes they want to see high flyers. You never know. I was lucky that second time that what they wanted was what I did anyway. So I kind of managed to stand out.
Yeah, obviously with your judo background, that must have been quite good for you.
It's just my style. I think every wrestler has a style. You know, you find something that you enjoy watching probably, and a style that you like to do, and then you just sort of hone that craft. And I've always enjoyed that sort of technical aspect. So that was always something that I found sort of more easier to do for me. You know, I'm not a high flyer. I'm not very good at sort of the strong style stuff. I just like to be a technical wrestler. That's what I enjoy.
So essentially, the time was right for you to get called up by WWE if that was what they were specifically looking for, that style of wrestling.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Just lucky, right place, right time. But it's the same tryout that Paige got signed at as well. So we got signed the same day. It was that, the fighting with my family. It was that tryout.
Was it?
Oh,
that same tryout,
wow.
Who played you in the movie?
I don't know. I don't think anyone did. No,
they should have called you in for that one. That would have been a good one to have you there for.
Yeah, it would be good. I know a few of the boys that did it. They got paid quite well too. I think so. I should have gone to the auditions really, but I think like wrestling that night in Gray's End.
So just before, obviously, you went to WWE. Were you, from what age sort of were you a full-time performer? Did you have a job that you worked whilst you were wrestling?
I've never been full-time. I've always had a job because, even now, I work 40 hours a week and I do 3 shows a week and teach at 2 wrestling schools. So you don't have a day off. But I've never wanted to rely on wrestling because if I get injured tomorrow, then, I'm in big trouble. So I've always had a career on the back burner, which means you've got to work a lot. But I know some wrestlers can sort of, in England, might just wrestle, but they probably aren't making massive money unless they're under NXT UK contracts. And it's like, I'd rather, I get bored at home. My parents are farmers, so they work every day. So it's hard for me to just sit around doing nothing. I've got to make some money. So I've always worked. I think there was a year, maybe a couple of years when I came back from America, where I was full-time with Brian, where I didn't work because we were doing so many shows, but that's probably the only time really.
Oh, okay.
It's almost that mentality that was instilled in you as like a kid.
As a kid,
to work and grind and just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. My parents are farmers, so they're always working, so you're always out doing something on the farm, so you couldn't sit on a couch during the day, you'd feel like you'd been lazy. So it's probably still that mentality. I've got to do something, be active.
Yeah, of course.
Good thing to have.
So, just sort of things. Obviously, you went to try out. Where did you try out? Was it the O2 in London when you tried for?
The one I got signed at was, the first one was in Manchester in the MEN, and the second one was the O2. Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about that process of being signed to NXT? So, who was there? Who was evaluating you, I suppose, as it were? Who did you wrestle?
It's when Johnny Ace was the head of talent. I think, is it Ty Bailey was like his right-hand man? I think he was the guy in charge that day. It was just sort of tag in, tag out wrestling really, and I was just sort of, like I said, I was lucky that it was what they wanted was what I was doing. So I wrestled for a bit. They like the look of me, so they chucked Jamie Noble in the ring with me for a while. We just rolled around for like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just rolling around on the floor, just doing some British sort of routines and stuff. And then he just gave him a nod, just said, "Yeah, this kid's pretty good." And
awesome.
From there, that was it really. And I was a lumberjack at the time. I was a forester. So when I got out the ring, they sort of asked, "What's your job?" I said, "Well, I'm a forester. Cut down trees all day." I think they liked that too. They liked to have an interesting backstory, and then it was that was it. Job done, really.
Of course. Well, it explains why you're absolutely huge, wrestling and being a forester. They're not particularly easy jobs, are they?
Well, I didn't do it very long. A couple of years I was younger, but it's very hard job in forestry. Much harder than wrestling.
That could have been an amazing gimmick on NXT, the lumberjack.
Yeah, I think
great.
I think the man's man was done already, and didn't go very well. So I'm glad they didn't go for that.
And that was another Englishman as well that we'll speak about in great detail later. Adam, we'll have to show you some classic man's man William Regal stuff.
Yeah. Is that him?
Yeah, I don't think Adam's aware. It was a great theme song. He's a man. Really,
I feel
really
like you showed this to me before already.
So
it's great.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff. And what I will say, Adam, as well, if they put Jamie Noble in the ring with you, Jamie Noble is awesome.
Yeah, insane.
He's really good. I think he beat CM Punk for the Ring of Honor title when Punk left. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, I think he did.
He's an incredible wrestler. If you go back and watch some of his matches, he's amazing. His stuff with Billy Gibbon was really good too.
It was, and he was stuck. In this silly redneck gimmick where he was like horribly kissing this woman Lydia, who did really well in Tough Enough, which we're going to go back and watch as well. But he was stuck in a horrible gimmick, and he was a brilliant cruiserweight champion. So we need to watch some of his stuff.
I think he still works there as an agent. I think he's been there for a long time, isn't he? As an agent now, so
yeah. He
must be pretty good.
I think Mercury was there as well. He and Mercury were little hand in hand, weren't they?
Yeah, I think Mercury's left now, isn't he? But he was one of my trainers in NXT. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He was brilliant.
Yeah, he's very good.
So what was it like in the early days? Did it ever sort of noticeably change during your time there? Because obviously you were there from 2012 to 2014, and Adam and I have been watching the podcast and been watching the product for the podcast, and I watched it originally when NXT started. I remember watching the first show, the first arrival, the takeovers, so just as a heads up for where we are on the podcast, we are in December 2013, so we just watched the first show of January 2014, and obviously the sort of quality there comes as a massive thing. It just explodes at this point, and they have people coming in left, right, and center. And this is around the time, I believe, that you sort of very sadly got injured, and your sort of tag team with Neville had sort of gone by the wayside. Is there any sort of thing that you can tell us about what changed between 2012 and 2014 NXT?
Yeah, massively. When I went there, it wasn't NXT, it was FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
So maybe 25 people or something. It wasn't very many of us. Just like a dingy little warehouse in Tampa, little sweat box. And that was good, because you have 25 people. You're like, well, my chances of going up to the road are pretty good here. There's not very many of us. And then it moved from there to Orlando to the Performance Center. And then you had about 100 people. And then your chances of going up to Raw and stuff are getting a lot slimmer because there's a lot more people. So, I mean, I probably preferred it in FCW. And I kind of like that sweatbox gym rather than some multi-million-pound Performance Center. It's where you're meant to learn to wrestle, it's meant to be tough. But yeah, that was a huge, huge change going from those two. And when I was there, it was FCW live events on like a national, like a little local TV. So we went from that into Full Sail to do the big shows on Sky and stuff. So yeah, it was a huge change.
Adam, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I think you know which question I'm leading into. I know when you were wrestling in FCW, you tagged with Conor O'Brien. I know when you made your singles debut, you faced the one and only Cardiff Colossus, Mason Ryan, who is also British. What was he like? Because he's a favourite of me and Dave's on the podcast. I mean, we love his stuff when he comes out and just shouts like we'll break him in half, and that was great for us. But what was he actually like as a person?
Mason Ryan. Yeah, I really like him. We've always got along. I knew him from All Star. Like I'd known him already, so he was someone that I already knew. He's just a freak, there's not many people that are built like him. Like he's unbelievable. Bit of a piss take. Like he's one of those kind of guys. Like if you meet him, he's a bit of a joker, but I liked him. In America, as I'm sure you're aware, not to knock American people because obviously they're not all the same, but sometimes with American people they can be quite loud and very confident. And I think when you're English, you can be a bit quieter, more reserved. We like to sort of just watch what's going on, and then we decide how we want to act toward the situation. And I think with Mason Ryan, we're kind of similar in that way that there'd be a lot of Americans making a lot of noise, and we'd be quite quiet and just watch what's going on, which could be taken the wrong way sometimes by the office. I think you're being grumpy, but you're not being grumpy. You're just it's just not your style,
Just observing.
I think
we used to have Billy Gunn come in to training. And all the American boys would be chanting, Billy, Billy, Billy.
Oh.
That's not an English thing, we don't do that in England. So me and Mason Ryan just stand there. We're not being rude, it's just we're not going to chant.
No, it's just a bit much, isn't it?
It's just not what we do. And it doesn't mean you're being rude, it's just that's your character,
We'll have to go back, Adam, and we'll have to go Joel when he enters the squad.
No. Never ever do that.
No, it's not a very English thing at all, is it? It's not English at all.
It just doesn't suit us.
No, it's just weird.
No, weird is the way I would put it. I think
he's a nice guy. And I think when he was released the same day as me, and it was just a shock. Just think, why would you? How could you release this guy? Surely you're going to find something for him. There's not many people that look like that. And I know wrestling's changed now.
Yeah. I think when we watched through the podcast and watched his matches, it was mystifying to us because the way he was put on NXT, he never lost clean, but he was never put over at the same time. So you kind of then believe in this character, and then you think, okay, he is what Americans want. He's stacked. Like, he's a huge guy. You'd think he would be able to get over on the main roster, and I don't think they just found the right thing for him.
Sometimes it's just some backstage heat. He might have had heat with somebody I didn't know about. That's all it takes. It's quite political, WWE, so it could be anything. And it felt like they were trying to make him do a style that he wasn't suited to. I remember trying to teach him to do a lot of sort of high flying. Why would you get this guy to do high flying? He doesn't. It's like you want him to fail. You got bloody Sin Cara and people there. You got these Mexican high flyers.
Yeah.
Barry's the guy that catches them. It's very strange, but.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just want him to batter people into oblivion, and that is it. That is what he's there for.
Exactly. And a good wrestling show should be like a circus. You should all be different. It's the whole point. A variety of different styles. That's what makes it interesting. And it's those styles clashing. Modern wrestling's kind of gone now to this bit where everyone is kind of the same. If you watch a lot of shows, it's the same match every time. It doesn't really change. I think wrestling's lost that a little bit. I think wrestling's best when you've got these completely different sort of styles and characters, gimmicks and stuff, That's what makes it interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I sort of feel like Adam obviously only became a fan of wrestling in 2017. I've personally been a fan of wrestling since I can remember. I'm 30, and I literally just all the way back in remember watching wrestling in 96. Just my cousin had videos, videotapes, and we used to go around on a Saturday, and I used to sit and just watch a different WWF pay-per-view. So I'd watch Survivor Series 96, which had your Michaels on it, but it also had your Bret Harts and your Austins, and all of that stuff. I've always loved the variety of wrestling, and as you say,
sure.
it's really noticeable. But that's how people, I think that's what really started to hurt wrestling in the mid 2000s when stuff like Ring of Honor came along, and Ring of Honor was amazing at the time.
Yeah, it's amazing, but it gets boring sometimes watching the same thing.
Of course it does. Yeah, that's why you have people like Daniel Bryan, and they're like, wow, Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson's amazing. He does this, that, and the other. He kicks out of everything. It's finishers, and it's it's like, oh, that's great. And that style, when that style came out, I remember the internet just went bang, and everyone was like tape trading, DVD trading. And the Ring of Honor DVDs over here were like crazy money, so I'd never be able to get my hands on them. But I'd always be like downloading matches, watching them, thinking, oh my God, this is like the best. And now that style is so frowned upon, and it's amazing how that switching mentality.
But was wrestling really that big then? If you look at the numbers it was drawing, it wasn't very big. The numbers during Nitro in 97, 96, 98, their numbers were just ridiculous. But in that show you had Dean Malenko, and then you had Bill Goldberg. It's complete. You can't compare them. So shows like that in that era, there was just so much variety of styles.
Yeah.
And wrestling's kind of on its arse now. The numbers are terrible, and it might be because it's just we haven't got that contrasting styles anymore. And I think that goes a bit from having different styles in different continents and using different kinds of wrestlers, whereas it's all got to be universal now. Everyone sort of copies everyone else.
Well, that's why we have the universal title.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
So, go on, Adam, you'll go.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask as well. Another guy I remember watching, you did a sparring session with Cassius Ohno as one of your matches on NXT. What was he like to work with, and what did he sort of teach you, or what did you pick up from him, if anything?
He's one of my favourites, because he's like a real... he's a big fan of British wrestling and European wrestling, so he really studies it. So obviously a lot of the guys that I've worked in England were people that I think he'd wrestled or he studied, sort of thing. So me and him would just roll around before shows in the ring, and we just sort of do little reversals and routines, British stuff before the shows. We got along really well. But he's just like a encyclopedia of wrestling holds. I've never met anyone like him. He just knows every reversal and counter and hold and routine there is. He's absolutely incredible. I think maybe the only thing that he sort of suffers from is his look, but
yeah,
I don't know if all wrestlers need to be bodybuilders. He's still a big guy. That should be enough.
Do you know it should be? Do you know what? Samoa Joe exists in this world, and Samoa Joe is amazing, and he's not a bodybuilder.
No. As long as you're big, as long as you've got a thick, you look like you could beat someone up, which Samoa Joe obviously does look like. You can get away with it. If you're just out of shape, that probably isn't going to work.
No.
Probably not going to want to pay to see that. But you haven't got to be ripped. You can be just a big bloke. It's not a problem.
Yeah. And I think for Hero as well, I think the real shame is it wasn't his fault. I mean, obviously his look now is very different to the look he had, maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago when he was in NXT. And I believe, I mean, obviously don't know, but I believe that's like a medical thing, which is a massive shame for him. Because if that ruined his chances, I mean, the rumor is that he was apparently in the Shield over Roman Reigns. I don't know, being in the company at that time, if you can confirm or deny that was the rumors, or if you'd heard anything, but that was certainly
that's what I heard.
Yeah, I mean,
I heard the same thing.
You can imagine how different the Shield would have been.
If that were the case. I wasn't there in the room, so I don't know for sure. But yeah, I've heard. I did hear that. Yeah. Something like that being flown around. So he missed the golden ticket there a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I think.
I can't believe they haven't kept him on as a coach.
Yeah,
that's what. Surely he'd be a perfect coach to have there. You think they would have kept him under contract as one of the head coaches? But I guess not. I don't know. Weird.
I think as well the fact they missed a trick with not, having him like tag team with Cesaro. I mean, the amount of work they both did as like Kings of Wrestling.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable, and they were doing amazing stuff, and they didn't capitalize on that. I mean, the crowd went nuts for that.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't do anything with it.
But again, maybe someone doesn't like him. Maybe someone doesn't like him at that stage.
Maybe.
Who knows? It could be anything.
Well, if they did, they certainly don't like wrestling.
Exactly.
So when it came to your matches in NXT, did you have like a certain agent that you would deal with? Was there an agent sort of assigned to tag team wrestling, or was it different people each time? Or were you given a certain amount of free reign?
It's it would change a bit. I mean, normally it was sort of Billy Gunn and Road Dogg would be normally with the agents, I think, for most of our tag stuff that was on TV. They were normally involved with that. So obviously they're a great tag team, so there's a lot of insight. I think Finley might have done a few. I don't really remember. Yeah, I think it was mainly Road Dogg and Billy Gunn that we had as agents.
Road Dogg comes out with a few controversial things, doesn't he? I remember his big outburst on Twitter when he said wins and losses don't matter, and I think he got absolutely hammered for that.
He's a good guy. He's a funny guy.
Oh, yeah.
To be around.
Yeah, I've actually been trying to get Adam to enjoy some of his promo stuff. I said he's so good at promo stuff, and Adam, I don't know, maybe Adam doesn't seem to get it, but I said you don't understand how big this was in the late 90s. It was absolutely mentally insane how big it was.
Yeah.
And he's one of those wrestlers that I think if you're a wrestling fan, you probably don't get that drawn to him, but if you're a wrestler, when you watch his work, it's unbelievable. Such a great wrestler. As a kid, I thought he was rubbish, but now I know how the job sort of works.
Yeah.
When I watch his matches, he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant brain.
Just have a subtle appreciation for him now that.
Yeah, he is. The little things that he does in the ring, really, really good.
I have to say, that's a really interesting question. Sorry to hop in, Adam. But I just, now that you've raised that point of, people that you weren't, I suppose, a fan of before you became a wrestler, and now people you have a real appreciation from. Is there anyone else that sort of really surprised you when you became a wrestler? You just thought, oh my God, this person's amazing.
Well, and then didn't think they were very good.
Yeah, well, yeah. Is there anyone that you thought wasn't like very good, or
I wasn't interested in Triple H as a kid at all. But then when you learn the wrestling business, he's one of the best ever. So that's a good one. Maybe even Shawn Michaels probably wasn't particularly fussed on. But, he's incredible, isn't he, when you watch it back?
Controversy.
Well, I was, when I look back at that stuff, I started sort of wrestling. I was more of a Bret Hart camp, really, I think, myself. But
absolutely.
That was the man. But Bret Hart's another one, though, I think. I don't think if I'd been a kid, I would have been that bothered about him. But
yeah,
when you watch his little details that he does, he's incredible. He's incredible.
Yeah, I think with Bret, there's a big, even though he is one of the best ever, in my opinion, I think he's the greatest WWF champion ever for me. I think he's amazing, and I don't think Adam's really seen that much of him. I personally think he's awesome, but as you say, he's not flashy at all, is he? Like with Michael's kip up and the comeback and the oh my God, like Bret never does any of that.
It's just the little things that Bret Hart does, his timing and some of his selling and stuff. It's just insane. And when you learn more about the business, you start to appreciate some of that stuff more. It stands out more to you.
Of course. I always feel like people that are massive fans of Brett are generally very good in ring, like good in ring generals. Like obviously you're a fan of Brett, and goes without saying in NXT you're definitely one of the most polished performers that we've seen, and you've got a defined style. I don't think there's a lot of people where we're watching at the minute who have that defined style, whereas you know what you are. This is me. This is what I'm going to do. You don't err from that style.
Yeah, well, I'd come from a wrestling background, so me and Adrian Neville, we've obviously both wrestlers before, so we already had some experience, whereas obviously they sign a lot of sort of football players or gymnasts and stuff, and they haven't got that seasoning. Some of them are great athletes, but you need to wrestle 500 or 1,000 matches before you get any kind of real seasoning and understand what your style is.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's something they're going back towards now with NXT. They've said they're going to stop taking what they quote unquote indie darlings, and they're going to start recruiting more like football players and athletes for their performance center, which I think is going to be a bit of a mistake because I think you need a nice mix of characters there.
I think it goes back to sort of saying about different styles of wrestlers. You're not going to get that if you do that, because you're just going to get people that all talk the same way. So it's good. Yeah. I just think it's great when you've got people doing a European style, you've got Japanese guys doing the strong style, and you've got Mexicans doing lucha libre, and that's when it's entertaining. When you get people that have got these different backgrounds. But if you all train the same way, it gets a bit dull, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's the same thing every time.
It is.
For sure.
I was going to ask about, obviously, with the whole tag team tournament, it was pretty much, well, from watching, I thought it was set up for the Ascension. Like the whole start of NXT at Full Sail, it was almost theirs for the taking. They were the ones they were pushed. Now, when Kenneth Cameron was obviously, let go from his position in NXT, obviously affected all those plans. I mean, were you aware of anything that was going on with him, or was any of the talent aware what was going on?
Yeah, we were very, very good friends. We lived next door to each other, sort of thing. So, yeah, I knew everything that happened and stuff, and it was a shame that he got released, but it is what it is. But I think, they were planning on having them win. We were a last-minute team that were thrown together. We weren't ever planning to win. It's just we had some good matches, and the crowd got behind us, so they just went with it. But yeah, I think the Ascension was set up. We always thought the Wyatts would win it. When Ken Cameron got released, because they were like, the Wyatts are going to win this, obviously, because they're on their way up to the main roster. So it was a big surprise to win, but it's nice, it's good to have on the CV and stuff. So,
do you still have the title?
No.
Do you have the title?
I had to get it back. I got injured, and then we had to sort of relinquish stuff. Yeah.
I thought they did it when you win a title, that they you get like a replica or something like that as a memento of you winning it.
No, I haven't got anything.
Those cheeky bastards.
No, we're back.
I hate that.
I just wanted to ask, really, how did the team with Neville come about? Were you put together purely because you were English?
I think so. I think they just wanted to get him pushed, really, because he's obviously incredible talent, and then I'm the ever English guy, so it was a lucky break for me. We're thrown together, but I think it worked quite well. And like maybe I don't know, I was 18 maybe when I tagged him the first time in Portsmouth, like a 6-man. And I hadn't been wrestling very long, like the first couple of years of wrestling, so it was quite cool to go full circle. Yeah. And then sort of 6 years later, tag again. It was quite a good time.
We think they missed out on a real trick, because actually, even though it's copyrighted, we sort of dubbed you, they dubbed you British Ambition, didn't they? Whereas we dubbed you British Airways, so we thought, they really missed a trick there by not having you as British Airways, but it's obviously never being that on fire.
Right. But happy to be on the show, really. It's nice to be used. But, it's one of those things. I mean, it was pushed pretty hard, and I was, a few weeks away from going up to the sort of main road, I guess, and then I blew my knee out, so it was sort of bad timing, and then I was out for 9 months with an injury, so it's sort of bittersweet in a way. I can look back at it obviously fondly to be the tag champs, but at the same time it was kind of a bad time in my career, because that injury was rough, to be that close to going up and then get told you all the plans are scrapped and you can't wrestle for 9 months was it was a bit tough.
It's more the mental thing, isn't it? It's not being able to sort of train with everyone, and it's that group mentality, I suppose. When you together and you're training, there's a lot of training on your own, rehabbing and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I think when I moved out there, my son was born maybe 3 months after I'd moved out there. So I went home for like a week to see him, and I went back to America again. And then about maybe 2 months later, my injury happened. So you can't really go home. You got a rehab there because they're paying for your rehab, which I understand. But when your kid's the other side of the world and you're thinking, I've only seen him for a week of his life, you know, my plans of meeting up to the road have been scrapped. You think, well, I don't know what I'm doing here. It's kind of pointless. And I can't wrestle. I can't go to the gym. I can't do anything to benefit myself. I'm just sort of wasting my time a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, mentally it was really tough. And that's no doubt what caused my release in the end, because I just struggled to get that sort of mental side of it back, really.
You almost just wanted to come home, I guess.
I just wanted to go home, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was released, I think Bill and Mike just said, you know, this is news you want to hear, you know, and they're going to release you. And I was quite happy to go home then. There were so many people there. I knew my chances of going up were so slim. It was pretty happy to come back to England.
Yeah, no, I bet. Oh my God, that's awful news. I genuinely had no idea. That's awful. It's awful that you had to stay over there and not see your son. I mean, that's...
Yeah, well, it's not their fault. It's just that's the way the wrestling business is, you know. There's nothing could have been done about it. It's just... Yeah. It was unfortunate timing, really, that my son was born when I moved out there. You know, it wasn't ideal. So yeah, it is one of those things. You know, I look back at it as I learned a lot in those 2 years. I was taught by a lot of, you know, really good people. So I'm very fortunate and very lucky to have been taught by them. But you know, I'd love to go back now. I'm a bit older, I'm probably a bit smarter on my decisions, and be able to play the game a bit better when I'm a bit older. But it is what it is. You know, I've still got the contract under the bed, so there's not a lot of English guys that have signed up the actual contract. So that's pretty cool to have that still, and definitely helps having it attached to your name. You know, sort of get and work elsewhere, but.
Yeah, of course, and especially as you say, you mentioned earlier that you're sort of doing training at 2 different schools. I bet that holds a real weight if you were to do like a seminar or something for people.
Yeah, I've got my own school in Salisbury, just on mats. So just teaching technical wrestling, which I really enjoy. I love coaching anyway. And then I'm one of the coaches at the Rev Pro School in Portsmouth, so I go there now on Wednesdays and help coach. And it's just good because the stuff I tell them, I sort of say to them, I'm not the best wrestler in the world. I probably don't do a lot of the stuff that I'm teaching you, but you know, my first 6 months when I was there, I was taught by Ricky Steamboat, and he is one of the best wrestlers of all time. So the stuff I'm telling you is just stuff that he told me. You know, things that maybe Finley told me, or these people that are just gods in the wrestling business, and they've told me these little things, so I'm just passing on that knowledge. Yeah. And it's good because it's getting British people taught the right way. You know what I mean? It's the right way of wrestling. It's how you're meant to do the job, so it's good to be able to pass that on to them.
No, of course. So just around the tournament where you won the tag titles, was there any sort of stories or sort of things that happened that people might not know about?
I think so. I mean, the day we won them, they told us we were going to lose. They said, you've done really well to get this far, but obviously you guys aren't winning, and you'd be losing. And then maybe an hour before the show, they said, oh, no, we were lying to you, you are winning.
Classic WWE.
Never over with the gimmick off the top rope. So that was good, but I don't know. It was good. There's some days. I mean, I think the house show, maybe the next Full Sail show, I think I left my title belt at home. So we were living in Tampa and wrestling in Orlando. And you got a certain time to be there. And I got halfway to Orlando. It's about a 2 hour journey. About an hour into the journey, bugger, I've left the belt at home. So I was spinning my car around. I'm late for the show to get the belt. Remember that. It's pretty bad.
Adam and I would often say, wouldn't we, that they do a lot of we're going on a local tour, it's not that far, and it'd be like a 6 hour drive. You'd be like, what? 6 hours, like our entire country.
Yeah, America's massive. It's huge.
They say like Bo Dallas is a local lad, even though he lives like 85 miles away. It's absolute madness. Yeah. I feel like what you've just said there is like very classic of NXT at the time, because I listened to there was a podcast from The Awakening, so like the Ascension, and apparently because they were on they didn't know whether this gimmick would hold when they won the titles eventually. They apparently told them, you know, you've got like a month, and if you don't pick it up, then you're going to get released. So it's just very hard, that sort of thing going on.
Yeah, they weren't being harsh to us. It's just a joke, I think, telling us we weren't going to win. It's not a problem. And I mean, Christ, if you started wrestling in the British wrestling circuit, you know, in the holiday camps and stuff, you get pretty tough skin, so they're not really gonna break me. I mean, I played rugby all my when I was a kid, so I'm pretty used to that kind of like mucking around. So they're not gonna break me with that kind of stuff. But, yeah, they weren't that harsh. I mean, there's a lot of negative stuff said about Bill DeMott, his coaching and things, and I thought Bill was a phenomenal guy. At times, the training was really hard, but he was just being told to do that. Triple H or people were just saying that we weren't conditioned enough, so that was his job. So he'd blow us up at training. That's not a bad thing, you know. That's how it should be. But
yeah,
I've got no bad experiences from my time there. You know, I thought it was really good. I always encourage people to go there. Yeah, sort of young wrestlers, if they get the chance, definitely go there. It's great.
Yeah, oh for sure. It does make me laugh really, because you do hear, especially you do hear horror stories about Bill DeMott. That's one person you do tend to hear absolute horror stories about. So it's interesting to note that, well, to hear that, you never had any bad dealings with him, because he does get a real bad rap.
Yeah, I think sometimes a bit of politics in wrestling, and some promoters or trainers can be swayed by having their favourites and stuff. I think Bill's the opposite. He's a proper man, you know. I don't think he settles for that. He's kind of very straight and to the point, which I quite like. I mean, some people probably don't like that. He is quite straight talking, so if you're doing something wrong, he's going to tell you.
Yeah.
And maybe some people like to be sort of pushing a little bit, not build them up. So that might be the problem there.
No, fair. So
but there was a letter. It was a letter, right, wasn't there? Which he got lost his job because of some letter that one of the boys read. My name was in the letter, which really annoyed me because I had no bad times with Bill at all. So I messaged him and said, I'm nothing to do with that, Bill. Why they use my name. Luckily, he obviously understood that I wasn't involved, and he knew I wasn't involved in it. But there were some stupid claims. There was one claim like the Bill would make us all wrestle naked or something. What a load of rubbish, you know. That's just absolutely stupid.
I'd heard that one. Yeah, they speak about him a lot. It tends to be like that little clique of guys. You know, you're very popular guys. Now to name no names, but one guy who went to Japan and did very well with blonde hair. He famously doesn't like him quite a lot. But there's a lot of stories about him. Adam will go through it.
Yeah, please do.
So
thinking what's going on.
What were your sort of dealings that you had with Triple H and William Regal? Because obviously they were two guys when you were there who obviously had a lot of influence. What sort of dealings did you have with both of them?
Yeah, nothing but positive really. Yeah, Triple H was always really good. Just got a presence about him. You know, he's in the room. You know, he's the boss. You know, but yeah, he was always great to me. And Regal was like a idol of mine. So
a god.
Just an honour to be around him. Really, you know, he's the man, isn't he? If you're a European wrestler, he's the man. So
he is.
Yeah, just to be around him, and he sort of trained me a bit in the ring and stuff. Just learning some stuff with him was invaluable, really.
Yeah.
I think if you're European, he'll sort of take your side, talk to you a bit about how to handle yourself backstage, and obviously he sort of takes you as one of his boys, you know. So you kind of got to. Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah. Did you? Sorry, I was just going to say, Adam and I, we loved the match between him and Chris Hero and him and Cesaro.
Yeah,
did you?
Amazing. Yeah. Him and Chris Hero was amazing. Terrible match. I was backstage for that one. That was really good. I think there's some bit where Chris Hero like pretends he's got his fingers broken. He's like snaps them back into place.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Oh, incredible talent.
That always sticks out in my head. That bit, that was amazing.
So good.
I watched the Cesaro match as part of, I think we did it a couple of podcasts ago, and that was just brilliant. It was just poetry. And the fact that it was only like one pinfall attempt in the whole thing, and that was for the three, and just the emotion of it. I did, as part of our podcast, as an experiment, I got my girlfriend to watch it who isn't into wrestling, and she just thought it was ridiculous. Like, how do you like this? And she's like, this is brilliant. Like, trying to get it over. Just trying to get over to a non-wrestling fan.
Well, it's different tastes, isn't it? You know, it's different tastes for different people. You know, that's what's good about it. Not everyone's going to be a fan of what you do. Some people will, some people won't.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a fan of their style, so for me it's fantastic. But some people might hate it. You know?
Yeah,
that's a nice thing. That's a nice thing about wrestling. It's no right or wrong way to do it a lot of the time. It's subjective. It's in it's performance. So you can't say that was a bad match, that was a good match. It depends on the crowd reaction and, do you know what I mean, whether that demographic enjoyed it or not.
Yeah. You can have the best match in the world, but if the crowd doesn't care, then
it's not a good match. It's a bad match, because it's all about getting a reaction. It's the whole point.
And there's been some matches where you think if you watched it on mute, and if like for me, if you watched Hogan and Rock from WrestleMania 18 on mute, you'd go, fucking hell, this is awful. But when you listen to that crowd and the crowd are just like, oh, and they're there for everything, you think, bloody hell, this is incredible, and the difference.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, looking at your top, you've got in England, you've got Progress, or you've got, say, Butlins holiday camps. Now, there's completely different crowds, so the way you wrestle is completely different. Doesn't mean one's better than the other. It's just you're wrestling for the audience that you're in front of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So some people might say, oh, the Butlins guys, they're lazy. It's not good wrestling because it hasn't got all the big high spots. But it's not. That's the way you wrestle to get a reaction from kids. It's a completely different style. It's just one isn't better than the other. It's just that's the whole thing about wrestling.
No, absolutely. Have you got any fun stories or memories from working with people in NXT, or people that you lived with or that you were sort of friends with?
Not really. I mean, I lived on my own for a lot of it, and then I lived with Tom LaRufa, a French guy, for a little while, maybe a year and a half.
Sylvester Lafort.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we were sort of roommates for a while. Nice guy. Bit odd. It's a nice guy.
He seems a bit of a nutter. He had an eccentric taste in $600 Euro trousers. They were
jackets.
Feature on the podcast.
Interesting fashion. But he's nice. Good painter too.
Is he?
Very good painter. Yeah. Check out his Instagram. Put some paintings on it.
Oh, I'll definitely will have a look after this.
Tom LaRufa is his name now, if you want to search him up.
Yeah, he went to Impact, didn't he? I remember. He went to Impact for a while.
Yeah, he's still wrestling. I did some shows a couple of years ago for All Star Europe for a tour.
Oh, wow, amazing.
Still kicking around.
Oh, bloody hell, he's knocking at the door. Oh, no. Sorry, one sec.
Sorry.
Hi, mate. You just leave it around the back. Is that right? Cheers, bud. Flip it now. Interrupting me. I've got Joel Redman with me. So, yeah. Brilliant. So you worked with Tom LaRufa. What about other people? Did you... who did you sort of travel with if you were doing like is it called the Coconut Loop? Is that what it was called?
I don't know what it was called. Who did I travel with? Well, I mean, probably before he got released, Kay Cameron always, we'd always travel together, and Conor O'Brien would be in the car with us. So the three of us, because we lived at the same compound in Tampa, we always travelled together, which is good because they kind of looked after me to start with, and they were the top boys there, so it was good to have their backing, really. So them, and then I don't remember. Probably Sylvester Lafort, I guess, because we lived together, travelled together.
Yeah.
Went out to Phoenix for the Rumble access. So I travelled with Pac and Bray Wyatt, I think, and Bo Dallas. I think the four of us would travel together in the rental cars and stuff, which was good. And I think Bray had been on the road a couple of times, so he sort of knew the deal. To get the rental cars and all that kind of stuff. Where to go to eat. And so, that was good.
Oh, fair. So I think we tried to pinpoint sort of the time that you got injured, because you didn't get injured actually in a match, did you? I don't believe we didn't get injured on
in a match. Yeah, it was in a match, in a live show.
I was going to say it wasn't on TV as well.
Yeah, it wasn't on TV. Just taking with Bray Wyatt, did a body slam and then land behind him, blew my ACL up. So just that was the end of that.
Oh man,
it was on in a match.
And it's always with an injury like that, it's always nothing as well, isn't it? Like you've probably done, escaping a body slam.
Of course,
5,000 times.
Yeah, it's always the way, because you're not thinking the big moves never get hurt. It's the little things, because you're not thinking something goes wrong.
Yeah,
but it's what it is. You can't change it. It doesn't make any difference.
No, exactly.
Like I say, if I hadn't been released, people say you're sad about that, but it's like, well, if I hadn't been released, I wouldn't have gone to Japan. And Japan's the best place I've ever wrestled. So you think, well,
yeah,
it is what it is. It's just the way. Just roll with it, really, and just get on with your wrestling. But
no, definitely. Just on the subject of that, I obviously know you went to All Japan Pro Wrestling specifically. You went to the Champion Carnival, which is, it's their version of the G1, isn't it? Really, it's a really gigantic, historic event. There's been lots of great people that have wrestled in it. Especially following a long list of sort of really world-class Gaijin talent. Ted DiBiase appeared in it. Terry Funk won it, I think. Billy Robinson, British legend, Stan Hansen, Dr. Death, Steve Williams. What was it like to sort of follow those guys into such a prestigious tournament?
Yeah, really cool. Yeah, really cool. Wrestling for All Japan is like the highlight of my career, I think. I just love my time out there. I love wrestling in Japan. The culture, the way you're treated, the crowds. It's phenomenal. There's just nothing like it in the world. I wrestled for the All Japan tag belts in the Korakuen Hall, and their belts are like the Malenko brothers we used to fight for, and the Bulldogs and people. You think, oh yeah, it's pretty cool history, Yeah. And All Japan obviously isn't as big as New Japan nowadays, but it's still All Japan Pro Wrestling, and you look at the history of that company. It's nice to say I work for them. And so I did 5 tours out there with them and stuff. Yeah, it's a great experience.
And they go through a bit of a revival as well. They've got Kento Miyahara, I believe, is the
Miyahara's great. Yeah, I think Jake Lee's the champion at the moment. Yeah, Miyahara is phenomenal.
Yeah,
Suwama and people. Suwama's really good.
Yeah,
they got some great talent. Some of the young boys are really good too. This Jake Lee's a really good wrestler, and local Nomura is very good too.
So Adam, there's a lot of interesting history with All Japan Pro Wrestling. Again, we'll have to go back to the mid 90s.
Check some of that.
Watch some 90s stuff. Watch some Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody stuff. Yeah, really cool.
I do like sort of going back onto an older WWE/WCW pay-per-views and just like watching random matches. So it's the sort of thing I'll have to do, especially in this. That's the beauty of wrestling. You can go back and watch stuff like from 20, 30 years ago, and it still holds up now.
Yeah. It's still better sometimes.
Well, yeah, pretty much. From going back, say 20 or 30 years, but to matches that have happened recently. Obviously, we had TakeOver recently. We had Ilya Dragunov versus Walter. Like for the NXT UK title. Did you watch that by any chance?
Yeah, I've watched that. Yeah, James Mason's a good friend of mine. He's one of the coaches for NXT UK. So he was telling me, "Oh, you need to watch that match. It's going to be phenomenal." So I did watch that, and I enjoyed watching it. I wouldn't want to be in there.
No,
I'd hate to wrestle either of them, but the match is incredible. Yeah.
And Adam,
me and Dave sat there and watched it the next day. Yeah, we sat there and watched it the next day because of like my work commitments and that. And literally, like the match finished, and we just sat there for like 5 minutes in silence because we just couldn't think of anything to say. It was a masterpiece, and it was nice to see Ilya finally get his moment.
It's one of those things where, like, if I was wrestling someone and we hadn't discussed we were going to have that kind of match, and they were hitting me like that, I would be annoyed. It's not pro wrestling, but I think those two are good friends, and obviously that's the style of match that they've agreed to do. So incredible to watch.
Yeah,
I'm not sure they could do that every night. I think that's probably going to be It's a special attraction match, but I mean, hats off to them. Like I said, I couldn't do that. I'd be tapping out straight away. I think if someone started hitting me like that, no chance. One of those chops from Walter, and I'm going to lie down for the free count, I think.
There's been instances of people paying Walter to chop them at like conventions and signings and stuff. You think?
I couldn't imagine anything worse. No. paying not to chop me, I think.
It's not the world's greatest. But Adam, you loved that match, and a lot of the a lot of the people and a lot of the matches that Joel's just spoken about in All Japan. That's the sort of style that All Japan pretty much pioneered. It created. I mean, we've spoken quite a lot. I've always said to you, the 4 pillars of heaven that's A1 wrestling right there. Misawa and Kobashi and stuff like that. So we've got to go back and check some of that stuff out.
Yeah, that's stiff. Like I wrestle in Japan against those boys. They're stiff. You've been hit, but it's safe. That's the difference. They're so safe and such skilled professionals that it makes good contact, but it's always safe. No one ever gets hurt.
Yeah.
So it's an art form that they do out there. Strong styles.
One thing Dave has got across to me is that obviously with WWE the schedule is so hectic. They have to almost wrestle a certain style because they know they're going to be working like the next night and the next night and the next night, and they have to sort of be careful with their bodies, right? Whereas in Japan, because you work a bit less of a hectic schedule.
No, Japan, you wrestle a big schedule. I think when I go for 3 weeks, I've a couple of days off, 3 weeks, the wrestle every day. The schedule is big, but they save that style for the big shows.
Yeah.
So when they're going to turn it up like that, it's the big show at the end of the tour. They do it at the other shows, so they can preserve it a little bit. It's a bit like wrestling for All Star. We do big tours, like 12 show tours every day. And I'm sort of big baby face at All Star, so I can't go to the next town with black eye. It's not gonna look good. No, I kind of got to keep the image.
Yeah.
So we're careful what we do a little bit in the ring. But that's being a good wrestler.
Yeah, of course. You can't go into it scared, can you? That you're going to get hit. It's going to be one of those things. Bumps and bruises happen.
Well, you're paid to get hit, so there we go.
yeah. It's a contact sport. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, who's your favorite person to wrestle in NXT or out of NXT?
Yeah, probably the guy called Nomura in All Japan. Like every time we wrestle, it just works. So he played rugby as a kid too, so maybe it's that rugby background. I'm not too sure. Yeah, he's probably one of my favourites. I don't know. I love just wrestling different people because that's the whole bit of wrestling I enjoy. Just having different people to wrestle. I don't know. There's no one that. It's every match is a challenge for me. It's someone new. It's a challenge. Let's see what we can do tonight. Yeah, it's always something you can take away from it. So that would be a favourite. Can't think of any favourites really.
And just on that subject as well, have you got someone that you would, if you could pick anyone or a couple of people in history, who would you have really loved to have wrestled in their prime and had like a proper dream match with for you? Who would be your sort of dream matches?
Wrestler called Steve Wright, like my favourite wrestler. So Alex Wright from WCW, his dad, he's just so good. So I'd love to wrestle him. And then a guy called Steve Gray, who's a British wrestler, who refs a lot of my matches now, and I'm always trying to beg him to do one more match, but he's retired.
Is that those guys? Is that why you chose Oliver Gray? Sorry.
Yeah, they asked me 10 surnames of famous British wrestlers, and then 10 like British first names. So they picked Gray, which is just nice, really, because it's one of my favourite wrestlers' surnames. So it's quite cool to have his name. But he would school me if I wrestled him, and I never got to keep up. He's like a master of that wrestling, so that'd be good. Otherwise, obviously I was a Benoit fan as a kid, so yeah, Benoit, but it's never going to happen. But Benoit would have been pretty cool. But that would have been physical, I mean.
Oh yeah, that would have been.
He's one of those guys. I said to Dave that one of the things I do love, and I do mention this on the podcast, is the fact that like all those little details matter to him. Like when he's going up to the top rope and he's got someone there, he doesn't just get up. He like sort of is jabbing and he's trying to get those little digs in. It's like those little things that make a massive difference while you're watching a match.
It looks real.
Brilliant. Yeah,
it looks real. It's like Finlay, it's the same thing. They managed to blur that reality. Some wrestling you watch, it's just not real. You can just tell. But we watch those guys like you're not too sure. Some Benoit stuff, you're like, that looks legit to me. It looks like he's trying to win.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was incredible.
No, for sure. It's the difference between a crippler crossface and a general crossface, I feel like. Crossface, he looks like he's trying to rip their head off.
Yeah, the way his veins pop out of his forearms and just the selling and stuff, just incredible. Out of this world.
Amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. With the re-emergence of like the UK scene, I'm going to say in the last like 4 or 5 years, obviously it's been great for British wrestling, and with NXT UK coming along as well and giving more people like options for training and actually full-time employment, is that something you would be interested in, like going to NXT UK as either a performer or a trainer?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah. I'd love to go there. That's my goal, But I've kind of heard rumours that there's sort of wanting younger people now. They're wanting 25 and under, I think. So I'm 34, so I'm too old, I imagine. But yeah,
which is mental.
Yeah.
Well, that will change. It always changes. They always change their mind. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, I've messaged them and stuff, and I know I'm on the list, and they've said that they are interested. So it's just a case of the right time for a tryout, and they'll have a look at me, and then we'll see what happens. But
fingers crossed there, mate, honestly.
Yeah, it's obviously the goal. I mean, for every wrestler in England, that should be the goal. And the idea of us to live in England would be just phenomenal. Me and my fiance are having our first child together soon, and I'd like to be able to stay in England and be be around that this time rather than the other side of the world.
Yeah. Of course. Well,
obviously, they've got Robbie. Is it Robbie Brookside as well?
Yeah.
Brookside, I think, is in America. He's in Orlando.
He's in America.
They've got Johnny Ross and James Mason, I think, are the head coaches in England.
So, Joel, we won't keep you too much longer. We're really grateful and just keeping an eye on the time here. You've been with us for a while, so I just wanted a couple of general questions, a little game of word association based on NXT, and then if Adam's got any quick questions, we've just got a couple of questions from listeners, and then we'll let you go and carry on with your day.
Yeah, that was cool.
So just another one for me. Best person that you've seen live. Is there anyone that you've sort of seen live and gone, yeah, they are a top wrestler?
James Mason. Every time I watch him, it's just he's just phenomenal. There's just no one like him. It was the reason I got into wrestling as a kid, and even to this day, even if I wrestle him, he's just another level. And the other one would be a guy called Danny Boy Collins. I know they're not obviously not American wrestlers, but Danny Boy Collins is incredible. He do stuff in the ring that 5 minutes time makes sense. How can someone be thinking that far ahead into a match? It's just he's outstanding. So those two guys, another level. I mean, in terms of NXT, trying to think who. What's his name? Can't think what he wrestles as now. Dave Harwood is his name, but is it Dax?
Oh, Dax Howard. Yeah.
Dax
Scott Dawson.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Again,
amazing.
Another big fan of Bret Hart. It's not a coincidence.
Well, he's just a student of wrestling. That any sort of 80s, 90s stuff, he just knows everything about it. But he's unbelievable wrestler.
Yeah, I often, whenever he sort of has a lot of singles matches, because at the minute the revival in the podcast are not a thing, so he's being managed by Tom LaRuffa, and he's doing a lot of sort of solo stuff, or he has been. I think that's now sort of ending, and he'll get into a tag team soon. And I always say to Adam, the Russian leg sweep spot, into the ropes, that's all Bret Hart. So that's literally just that Bret Hart playbook 101. He wrestles exactly like Bret Hart.
That's what every wrestler does. You just copy from other people. That's the whole point,
Exactly.
That's exactly what everybody does.
Yeah, you've got to take your inspirations.
Of course you have, yeah.
Any historic? Sorry, no, we've asked you that one. Favorite country to visit and perform in? You've gone over this. It's Japan.
Japan by a mile. Yeah, best place in the world.
That's awesome. Have you got a favorite city?
Probably Osaka. In terms of cities to go to, it's a really nice city. It's probably my favorite one.
Nice.
Nice one.
Favorite food or cheat meal?
Pizza, probably. Probably go for pizza, I guess. Yeah. The worst one for you.
Of course it would be.
Me and Adam are big pizza fans, aren't we, Adam?
Oh, of course.
You
Great
can't go wrong.
Place down the road.
Yeah,
I wanted to know as well, like, if you're having a show day, what is your typical sort of plan for the day? How do you sort of set yourself up for your show in the evening?
Probably work all morning and then train in the gym and then go wrestle. I don't know. Probably the same thing. I don't really set myself up. I just go wrestle. I don't know. I don't have any little rituals. Just
Season vet at this point. You don't need to worry about it. You got.
No, I don't really worry. This is a big show. Maybe you worry then, but no, not really. Don't worry.
Yeah, fair.
We're pretty confident.
Fair. So just on that, a little game of word association. So I'll just say a name to you, and you can just give us a word or a comment about those people. So first one, Triple H.
Yeah, lovely guy. Big presence. The boss.
William Regal.
The legend.
Neville.
Best high flyer in the world.
Bray Wyatt.
The character.
Sami Zayn.
Fun guy. Big character.
Cesaro.
Strong.
Yeah, agreed. Bailey.
Didn't know her very well. Fan favourite, I guess. Gets over with the crowd really well.
Luke Harper.
A fight. It's a nice, lovely guy. He's an incredible guy. Really sorely missed, but he's good to wrestle. He's physical.
The Ascension.
Great gimmick. Yeah.
Charlotte Flair.
Incredible progress as a wrestler. She had no wrestling background when she first came in when I was there, and yeah, it's amazing the way that she's progressed.
She's morphed into a hell of a talent for someone with barely any experience.
Yeah, she's got no experience to be the best.
Corey Graves.
Corey Graves. Probably didn't particularly like him to start with, and then you understand he's a different kind of person, really. Then you kind of he was all right near the end, but nice guy at the end, but I didn't really know how to take him to start with.
Differences.
Yeah, different people. We're all different people, aren't we? We didn't really click to start with, but then we were fine by the end.
Speaking of different people, here's one for you. Enzo Amore.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Good laugh. Likes to party.
Chris Hero.
Encyclopedia. Yeah, the best.
And the last one, Sasha Banks.
Again, I didn't really know. I never spent a lot of time with the girls, really. Sasha Banks. Yeah, I wouldn't really know what to say. She's very good, but I didn't know her at all, really. We weren't friends, really.
No, fair enough. So yeah, I have to say that she's made big strides on our podcast. It's again ridiculous. I feel like how because obviously she came in and she was obviously a wrestler before, but the difference in her in 6 months has been remarkable.
Yeah,
really remarkable. Bailey was always fantastic though. I have to say she's A1. As soon as she stepped through the door, you thought, yeah, she's head and shoulders above everyone.
Yeah.
So one of our listeners, Ashley, asks if you had the chance to go back to WWE in some capacity, which you've already sort of gone over, would you?
Yeah, of course I would. But not to America. I wouldn't go live in America. I'd go back to NXT UK for sure, but I wouldn't go back to America. I'm quite happy in England. I wouldn't want to do that.
Okay. And he also asks, is there someone that you think WWE have missed a trick in not signing, such as Charlie Sterling, Styx, Nathan Cruz, or someone like RJ Singh? I know you do sort of a lot of stuff with Charlie Sterling, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Charlie Sterling, probably the best wrestler in the country. So, yeah, Charlie Sterling. But I think they were close to doing something with him, but I'm sure it will come around. Adam Maxted probably as well. Yeah,
he was on some show, wasn't he? Was he on Love Island or something?
Love Island, yeah. But you got to look past that. As a wrestler, he's incredible. He's just always getting better.
He's got a fantastic look.
He should be under a contract, and I imagine Ricky Knight Jr. will be under a contract pretty soon.
Yeah.
I would have thought they'll have him pretty quick.
Is that
he's very good.
He's a high flyer.
And I think Doug Williams is probably the biggest one they missed the trick on. Don't know why they never signed Doug Williams. But weird.
Yeah, it was weird. And he's out of retirement now as well, so they haven't missed their chance just yet.
Well, I don't think that's... Well, maybe as a coach. Why is he not there as a coach?
Yeah, no, agreed.
Strange.
He did do a lot of stuff in TNA, though, didn't he? I suppose he went over and spent a lot of time in America, but just never...
Yeah, there might be a backstory to it. I've never really asked him. I'm sure there's some kind of story about it.
Brilliant. So I think we'll leave it there. Adam, have you got anything you want to ask?
I can't think. I think we've covered everything. I'm just gutted that we're not able to go to the show in Coventry. It's disappointing for me.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That'd be a good show.
Yeah, we're actually at a stag do, or else we would have gone. Yeah. That's why we've had to arrange.
Oh, that's fair enough.
To do it now.
We were gutted, honestly, but we'd love to have come to the show. But
so whenever you come back locally, whenever you come back locally, we'll be there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Brilliant. Well, we can't be more grateful that you've sort of given us this time. I don't think we've ever imagined that we'd end up interviewing someone who has such great history in the promotion that we're covering, but really excited to see what your future holds. You still wrestle a lot around the UK, and you've got many brilliant stories yet to tell. So you can find Joel on Twitter at Joel Redman Pro and on Instagram at Joel Redman Pro 1. So make sure you support him.
Yeah, cool.
Brilliant.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thanks ever so much. Cheers for the time. So a really big thank you to Joel for spending that time with us. We are really appreciative that he's taken that time. And not only is he a great wrestler, but he's also a great bloke. The fact that he's given this time for us to talk to him, spend that time with him, and just really pick his brains about wrestling that he loves, his style of wrestling, things that he's done. We really we really are thankful. So Joel, if you ever take the time to listen to this, we really appreciate it. But 100% make sure you go and check Joel out. And as he said in the podcast, he's only 34 years old, which when you consider his career, he's pretty much done it all. He's training. It's insane to think that he's only 34. So definitely, he's still got plenty of gas left in the tank, and he's a fantastic wrestler. So make sure if he does come to your local area, you go and check him out, because it's very rare that you'll see someone as well travelled as Joel on a local show in England. So definitely make sure that you do not miss someone like him, because he's a great talent and he's a great person.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Not just a good wrestler, but a nice bloke as well.
Yeah.
Honestly, it blows my mind that we've been able to do that.
Yeah.
And that he's actually given us his time, because you know what it's like. Like sometimes you try and organise these and you don't even get like a response. But the fact he said, yeah, I'll do that. Not a problem. What a bloke. And hopefully he comes to Coventry soon so we can actually go and see him perform live, because that would be amazing.
Yeah. And not only that as well, but, as we said, he has literally spent the time talking to us, coming in. As he said, he's mentioned in the podcast he works full time, which is amazing that he's taken the time out of his day. That sort of stuff is fantastic. So genuinely, please go out of your way to support him, because Adam and I definitely will be doing so. But for now, we're going to leave you, and next time we're going to be coming back with some more regular NXT action. So we can't wait to be back on track with the old podcast. So there's only one star of the show, and that's got to be Joel Redman. So we've got to give Joel a star of the show, and really, again, just a big thank you for him fulfilling two dreams, because I never thought I'd ever interview a wrestler, but from this podcast, and I'm sure Adam, you probably thought the same.
Nope.
So yeah, it's safe to say we
I
are
think
delighted.
the same way. Also, I found out enough about Mason Ryan now. That's a top bloke.
Yes, yeah, we love Mason Ryan. Right, so you can find us on Twitter. We are on Twitter at NXTBTTF. You can also find us on Facebook just by searching NXT Back to the Future Podcast. You can find us on YouTube by searching NXT Back to the Future Podcast. And you can find us everywhere that they do good podcasts, and some other crap places they do good podcasts as well. So, I think we're going to go. From me, Dave.
Me, Adam.
We will see you later, guys. Take care. Thank you very much.